I signed my mother's house over to her caregiver. So my mom had a stroke about 2 years ago, and after that she couldn't really live on her own. I've got 2 older brothers, Danny and Rob, and when we all sat down to figure out care, they both had 100 reasons why they couldn't do it. Danny travels for work, Rob's got the kids, and I've got a full-time job too, but somehow that never counted for anything. So we hired a live-in caregiver named Grace. She was in her 50s, quiet, and honestly I didn't expect much. I figured we'd cycle through people the way families do. Grace never left. 2 years, she never left. She learned which songs made my mom calm down when she got confused at night. She figured out mom only ate if you put the fork in her left hand. She drove her to church, did her hair, sat with her through 2 hospital stays where I'd show up at 9 p.m. and find Grace already there holding her hand. My brothers came at Christmas. That was it. Christmas for about 2 hours, then gone. Mom started talking about the house maybe 8 months ago. She'd get clear sometimes, really clear, and one afternoon she grabbed my wrist and said, "I want Grace to have this house when I'm gone, not the boys. They'll sell it before I'm cold." I said, "Okay, Mom, we'll talk about it." She said, "No, now," while I can still say it out loud. So I called an elder law attorney and we did it properly. The doctor signed off that she was competent that day. She signed a life estate, she stayed in her home until the end, and the house transferred to Grace after. Mom passed in her sleep in April. Grace was in the chair next to her bed. I told my brothers at the funeral, quietly, because I didn't want a scene. Danny's face just went hard. He waited until we were back at the house, everybody in the kitchen, and then he said, "So when were you going to tell us you gave away our inheritance?" I said it wasn't ours to inherit, it was Mom's to give. Rob jumped in. "To a stranger? You signed our mother's house over to the hired help?" I said Grace wasn't the hired help, she was the only person in this room who showed up. Danny said I manipulated a sick old woman. He said I'd been circling that house for years and used Grace as a front to cut them out. I laughed. I actually laughed because I make less than either of them and I never got a dime and never wanted one. I said, "You think I did this for money? Grace got the house, not me. I got nothing but 2 years of watching you two ignore her calls." Rob said Mom wasn't in her right mind. I said I had a doctor's letter dated the same day saying she was. Danny said they'd sue. He said no lawyer would look at a caregiver inheriting a house and not smell something. I said, "Go ahead. There's a competency evaluation, a recorded statement, and Grace has 2 years of daily logs she kept because I asked her to, back when I still thought maybe you'd want to know how your own mother was doing." That's when Danny said the thing. He said, "That woman spent 2 years working her way into a dying woman's will, and you helped her." And Grace was standing in the doorway. She'd come to drop off Mom's rosary, the one Mom wanted me to have. She heard all of it. She didn't yell. She set the rosary on the counter, real gentle, and she looked at Danny and said, "Your mother asked me once why her sons never called. I didn't have an answer for her. I sat with her every time she cried about it, so she wouldn't have to do it alone." Then she looked at me and said, "I'll transfer the house to whoever the 3 of you decide. I never did this for a house." And I said no. I said, "Mom decided." She decided when they let her calls go to voicemail. She decided every night you fed her and sang to her while they were asleep in their own beds. I turned to my brothers and I said, "You didn't lose an inheritance. You gave it away, one missed phone call at a time, and I have the logs to prove every single one." Danny told me I'd regret choosing a stranger over family. I picked up Mom's rosary off the counter and put it in Grace's hand instead of mine. The brothers haven't spoken to me since the funeral. Grace still calls me every Sunday.